All right, today we're cracking open one of my absolute favorites, Roald Dahl's George's Marvellous Medicine. It's this wild story about a boy, a grandma who is just the worst, and a potion that changes, well, pretty much everything. Let's get into it.
So where does all this madness begin? Not with some grand quest or a heroic calling. Nope. It all starts with this one little thought, a mischievous idea born out of total and complete frustration. This is the spark that lights the fuse on a truly insane day.
Okay, so let's meet our main players. First up, you've got George. He's a good kid, but he is bored out of his skull living on a remote farm. And then there's Grandma. Now, she is not your sweet, knitting in a rocking chair kind of grandma. Dahl calls her a grizzly old grunion. And honestly, that's putting it mildly.
I mean, she is just plain awful, not just a little grumpy. We're talking next-level beastly. She spends all day, every day, tormenting George, telling him to eat spiders, complaining about everything under the sun, and just generally being a miserable person to be around.
So after one rant that gets particularly creepy, where she starts hinting that she has these dark magical powers, George gets this idea in his head. What if she's not just a mean old lady? What if she's an actual witch? And that's it. That's the final straw. He decides it's time to do something big, something whopping.
So picture this. His mom is out shopping, and George is stuck at home with the old grunion. His mind is racing, and then his eyes land on her bottle of plain old medicine. And that's when it hits him. This absolutely brilliant and, let's be honest, kind of dangerous idea starts to form.
See, he's not just going to play a little prank on her. Who no? He's going to replace her boring medicine with his very own creation. The goal is simple, really. He wants to make a potion so incredibly powerful that it'll either cure her bad attitude for good or, have some other slightly more explosive side effects.
And so it begins. George grabs the biggest pot he can find and starts his mad scientist quest around the house. He's got a very simple method. There's only one rule. If it's runny, if it's powdery, or if it's gooey, it's going in the pot. Simple as that. And he goes through everything. Seriously. We're talking shampoo, toothpaste, shaving cream, his mom's fancy perfume, floor polish, even a bit of gin from the cabinet. Then he heads out to the shed and starts grabbing animal medicines for every condition you can imagine, plus a little engine oil and antifreeze for good measure. So he puts this wild mixture on the stove and starts cooking it. It's bubbling and hissing and lets off this blue smoke that smells, well, magical. But here's the clever part. To make sure she actually drinks it, he needs it to look like her old medicine. The perfect finishing touch? A whole can of brown paint.
All right, it's the moment of truth. The clock hits 11. The potion is officially ready. It is medicine time. So George takes a deep breath, grabs the bottle and a spoon, and heads into the living room to face the beast.
He gets the spoon in her mouth and bam! The reaction is instant. She lets out this huge yelp and literally shoots up into the air, just hovering there for a second like she's been hit by lightning. And just when you think it can't get any weirder, it does. She says her stomach feels like it's full of fireworks. Smoke starts pouring out of her mouth, and she inflates like a giant balloon. And after all that, the real show begins. She starts to grow.
And we are not talking a little bit of growing. No way. She just keeps getting taller and thinner, stretching like a rubber band and shooting right up through the house, crash through the living room ceiling, bam, right through the bedroom floor, all the way up until her head is sticking right out of the farmhouse roof. So, Grandma, who is now stuck in the roof, still doesn't believe George is the one who made this incredible medicine. So George, to prove it, gives a little spoonful to a chicken. And what happens? The hen grows to the size of a horse.
Right at that moment, George's dad gets home. Now you'd think he'd be furious, right? Hole in the roof, giant mother-in-law, but nope. Mr. Kranky is ecstatic. He sees that giant hen and his eyes just light up. He's thinking giant farm animals, ending world hunger, and of course, getting incredibly rich.
There is just one teeny tiny problem with this grand plan to save the world. George threw so many different things into that pot, he has absolutely no idea what the real recipe is. He can't remember all the ingredients.
So they try to make it again, and the results, well, they're a disaster, but a really funny one. Medicine number 2 gives a chicken super long legs. Number 3 creates a chicken with a neck as long as a giraffe. And medicine number 4? Well, that one does the complete opposite. It makes a chicken shrink.
So how does this all wrap up? Well, while George and his dad are busy creating these bizarre mutant chickens, Grandma, who is still giant and still very grumpy, comes stomping back, demanding her morning cup of tea.
And that's when she sees it. The cup in George's hand filled with that brown, shrinking liquid from their last failed experiment. Thinking it's tea, she completely ignores everyone's warnings, snatches it from him, and drinks the entire thing down in one go.
And this shrinking potion works fast. She shrinks right past her normal size, down to the size of a bottle, then a matchstick, then a tiny pin, until finally, poof, she just vanishes into thin air, completely gone.
So is the family horrified? Panicked? Not really. After a moment, George's mom just kind of says, "Well, I suppose it's for the best." And Mr. Kranky totally agrees. In fact, they seem pretty relieved she's gone.
And that was that. They never figured out how to remake the marvelous medicine. The dream of giant animals and becoming millionaires vanished, just like Grandma. But you know what? George didn't really care.
Because George was left with something so much better than fame or money. For one absolutely wild, unbelievable day, he got to bend the rules of the universe. He created real magic in his own kitchen. And honestly, that's a secret worth keeping.